Welcome back to the table, friends. I'm your humble host, GreyDMs, and with me as always is Owen.
Hello.
So today, we're going to probably ramble a little bit. We're going to have a little more free-flowing discussion, try to get away from the existential dread that follows the typical Owen podcast. Nope, we're going to talk about something that Owen and I have been discovering, a new, fun, exciting thing in our lives that you've probably heard slip through the cracks a few times. Bash through the cracks with its gauntleted fist of fury. Really? We're going to talk about a new genre of fiction that we are probably the last to get on board the bus with, which is literature RPG, LitRPGs.
Yes.
So let's get we'll get introduction. As with all RPG, every RPG needs a hook, right? Every adventure needs a hook.
Yes.
So what if your favorite fantasy hero could literally see their stats go up every time they fought a monster?
That's great. Do we have to read those stats every time?
That's my complaint. You're like, I'm going to take that complaint away from yours. What if dying in a video game didn't mean game over, but the end of a real life?
Da, da, da.
Yeah, so these questions define lit RPG, one of the fastest growing subgenres in speculative fiction. Basically, lit RPG stands for literary role-playing game. So it's a genre of fiction where game mechanics, levels, skills, quest, hit points, experience points, all of the good tropes exist within the story world itself. So it often combines fantasy or sci-fi settings with explicit RPG elements, treating the narrative like a campaign and the protagonist plays through it. So this is all the hotness online with the youngins.
The youngins. Oh my God.
This is one of the things too, where like it feels like we looked the other direction for like a year, came back, and everybody's like, man, we've been doing this for 20 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, you really think about it, and I think personally for the two of us, the last 4 or 5 years have been kind of hectic, and we really haven't put the time into reading and things like that like we used to.
Yeah, like, oh my God, my life's changing. I haven't looked at the basic things that I would normally keep up with.
Oh my God, I don't have a job. I do have a job, finally. Oh my God, I don't have a job again.
the good old cliches.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the existential dread of like, I don't get paid anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of us at least fixed that problem for a while. So we're so derailed on that. Back to lit RPGs, guys.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's talk about like did I skip ahead? Where did it come from?
A book?
All the books actually came from a lot of different sources. It probably had influences in text-based RPGs and MUDs. So in the 1980s and 1990s, inspired writers to imagine stories like told through the lens of a player character. Early anime and light novels like Sword Art Online and .hack. A lot of people forget about .hack, but .hack did a lot of heavy lifting. Stuff like this. Established the trapped in a game trope. That was really interesting when you started establishing that like the game setting was like the game itself was a setting instead of like, a
person logging into the game.
Yeah, very much so.
Log Horizon too.
Yeah, a little bit later, but yeah, absolutely. Even going all the way back to like Tron, 1982.
Yep.
The Last Starfighter, 1984, kind of.
Kind of.
They explored digital immersion before MMORPGs existed. But much more recently, like Ready Player One kind of like was one of the IPs that kind of cemented parts of this and people started understanding.
Right.
Apparently, it has a long history in Russia, too.
Really?
The term lit RPG itself was coined in Russia around 2010 to 2013, largely by authors like D. Russ, the Play to Live series, and Vasily Mahaniko, The Way of the Shaman.
Okay.
Both interesting. These stories were serialized online and found a massive readership among MMO gamers. One of the things that's very interesting within the lit RPG kind of the genre is most of these have only existed in a time period where digital self-publishing was very accessible. And that's one of the things you'll notice is like people be mentioning stuff that was either published online and is like a serialization, or basically it was like thrown up on like, because even like Dungeon Crawler Carl is like 2 versions, like the original version that was more self-published, and then the later like picked up by Barnes and Noble kind of thing.
Go read Dungeon Crawler.
Oh, we'll get there. So what are the defining features of the early genre? Well, usually in-universe game mechanics are real and consistent. Protagonists level up, gain stats, earn loot, and these numbers matter to the plot. That's a whole part. Like, it's not just some abstraction.
Mm-hmm.
It often combines survival and strategy with moral or philosophical stakes. What does it mean to be human in a world that rewards grinding?
Mm-hmm.
Another critique I could have about it's what.
Well, if you complete this podcast, you'll get another class skill that you can get.
The podcast listener skill. So in 2010s and beyond, basically the genre really exploded. Mainly, one of the really kind of pushing forces was basically the explosion of the web novel era.
Mm.
So platforms like Royal Road, Wattpad, and Scribblehub became LitRPG incubators. Readers consumed serialized stories chapter by chapter, much like following an ongoing campaign. Many LitRPG authors came from gaming backgrounds rather than traditional publishing. So some Western breakthroughs that we had were like Ready Player One, 2011, pop culture nostalgia meets MMO mechanics. Awaken Online, which is Travis Bagwell in 2016. Morally gray protagonist power fantasy with dark undertones, which is pretty much copy-paste with half of these.
For a second, I thought that was the title. I was like, wow, this dude's leaning into it.
That'd be awesome. Just go the full like isekai route and just have that as the title. This book is the morally gray protagonist who has power fantasies with dark undertones.
That's our idea. You guys can't take it.
We're taking that one. Sufficiently Advanced Magic by Andrew Rowe in 2017, which was a dungeon crawling meets classic fantasy kind of structure. The Wandering Inn, Pirate Bay, ongoing, which is a massive online serial that blends slice of life with epic world building. And Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinneman, a darkly comedic and brutal survival series where Earth becomes a game show dungeon crawl. So
I've heard good things.
It's just like it's a soft recommend. So what is the appeal, right? Well, for gamers, it scratches the progression itch, which is watching your character level up and feels a little bit like playing the campaign itself.
Mm-hmm.
For readers, it merges fantasy adventure with the logic and structure of RPGs. And for writers, it allows world building through rules rather than pure exposition. Any other appeal points to you, things you appeal about it?
I just think it lends itself to the male power fantasy.
A lot, yes. I would say so. I think it's an easy way to establish stakes that don't directly apply to like the story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like you tell 2 stories side by side. A fantasy adventurer finds out that the town next door is going to be burnt to the ground because there's somebody going to attack it or whatever in like 3 days or whatever. And then the next one is like the fantasy adventure hears about, but there's like a countdown clock. You have 12 hours to solve the mystery and it's ticking down. Well, like, especially if you're giving this to gamers, those gamers like, ooh, timed quest, you know, and like that triggers a part of them where now you're pulling the emotional memory of every time they've done one of those and you're kind of getting the benefit of having access to that.
I don't mean this the way I'm going to say it, but it's almost like a cheap trick. Because you're able to establish a conundrum, an issue, a dire situation without having to put a lot of thought into it. And immediately the reader is going to understand it.
Yeah, like in a fantasy genre, like I said, if you have to go get the MacGuffin from the monster in the cave, at a certain point, as a writer,
collection quest.
Yeah, at a certain point as a writer, you're kind of like, oh crap, now I have to make this fight interesting, or I have to make some stake here. Maybe I need to invent something. But as like someone who's writing in a lit RPG thing, now you can just use weird mechanics.
The computer said you had to do this or it was going to kill your friends.
Oh yeah, but also like, oh no, the monster is an anti-type to the character I built.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to figure out how to make this work? You know, like you're like you said, you're like playing on easy mode because now you can scrape this whole other area of things that you can put in there, as long as you don't literally write page after page of, you know, like so and so has cast this spell, success,
It did this damage.
So and so has.
They have this much health left.
Yeah, God. Just for the record, dude, don't do that. This is not your World of Warcraft fanfic. All right, so.
What sucks is I have a feeling we're in the minority on that one. I feel like a lot of these books are more like that, where we like a specific genre of this version that isn't as hardcore.
I hope not. I hope this is actually, out of all the podcasts that we've done recently, this is the one I really want. I'm really hoping readers engage with, listeners engage with, because I want to hear from people who have spent time in this like genre that we're just getting into.
Right.
Like, what is the thing?
Tell us what we're wrong.
Yeah. Like, tell us, like, what is the good stuff? What is the good places here? Where are the good places? What are the good books to read? Because, like, we took a couple shots in the dark. One of them fell a little flat for me, and the other one was, like, really good.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that, like, if you're just basically recounting, like, the flow by flow, like, the moment by moment, like, it's not really.
It can happen. Like, you can do it like that. Don't do it every time.
Yeah, I just,
like, when it's a moment that matters, when it's the first time and you're like, oh God, what is happening here? I have to learn how to fight, and you do the stuff. You use the MacGuffins that you've been given and blah, blah, blah. That's cool. And then another one shows up and you do it the same way. And you describe every beat by beat by beat by beat. Another one shows up and you do it the same way, and it's beat by beat by beat by beat. Like, it's really boring. Like, it's really repetitive. People start skipping pages because there's no reason to read that. Because I know you survive because there's more book.
Yeah,
But when it's like, hey, I ran into these things, I took care of them, it was difficult because of X, but we got through. Now here's the next thing that we're going to talk about. That is a much better way to do it. But you can also then go, then we ran into the big one.
Yeah.
And this was a situation, and this is what happened. And then again, it's fine, but make it different enough that it's not just, I cast this spell, it hit for this. They cast this spell, I dodged it. I cast this spell, it hit for this.
Yeah, it's just, that's so. I was going to make a joke here about, like, we could write our own lit RPG by basically just writing an intro and then going and playing WoW for 5 hours. Then we just copy.
Just write it down.
Yeah, we just copy the whole chat, the combat log. We just copy the combat log, mix it in with the chat log. And we're like, here's a book. No, the question. What? Like, so part of this, dear listener, we apologize, is that we just. Owen read Shadeslinger, and then he lent it to me, and I read it, and I did not like the book. So if it feels like we're targeting a book specifically, it's that book.
Yes, don't get me wrong. There have been several books and series that I've read.
I walked into the new town, and I looked over, and I wondered, oh, does the guy possibly have a quest for me? And then the exclamation appeared on his head, and I was like, I'm going to throw this book across the room.
There are several books I've read and series that I've read throughout my life where the first book was a difficult read. And a lot of that is because it's usually setting up a habitat, a world, whatever you want to call it. And sometimes that can be a little bit boring and difficult to slog through because you need to establish these things. And they might not be the most interesting things, but they serve a purpose and you get through it. And, you know, eventually things start clicking. Very few books have I read where it took half the book for those things to start clicking.
Or for the whole book.
And then very few books have I read where I'm skipping pages because literally nothing important happens on those pages.
And it sucks for me when I have to go and say, like, okay, Ready Player One, which is a book that, like, I enjoyed, but I recognized it wasn't really, like, the best book in the world.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really written surprisingly well. But when I'm, like, trying to get this guy to copy that guy and things, because, like, there's a whole part in there where, like, there's multiple parts in there where, like, Frank the Talking Axe is, like, trying to basically nudge him into finding a hidden quest.
Right.
This is literally the part that would be interesting. This is the part about the player going through something that is not part of the daily grind.
Right.
He's discovering something. It has narrative worth. But he just kind of has a conversation, then he's like, oh, I'm going to ask one more thing. Instead of writing, like, him having the conversation going like, that's weird. Why did the NPC say it that way? Has anybody ever really looked at this dialogue? It implies that there's something here I'm missing. Oh, I really feel like I should be poking here. Oh, there's something, and then get paid off by like, oh, you brought up the one thing I needed you to bring, you know? And I got excited when it looked like he was going to do that.
Didn't.
And then he just doesn't.
So one of my big complaints, and again, this is the first book. I'm reading the second book right now, and I have fewer complaints about the second book than I've had with the first book. I don't know if Grey's going to want to read the second book, but we'll see. But to add to what he is saying, there are so many times when Ned and Frank have not the same conversation, but the same conversation beats over and over and over. And all the beats are the same insults get flung, yada, yada, yada. But about 10% of the time, something happens in those beats where Ned is like, but why did Frank say it like that? Oh, were you trying to nudge me towards this thing? And then Frank is just like, I don't know. And I'm like, what's different about this time than the other 12 times he did that?
He's not a good writer.
I know.
It's that whole thing is show, don't tell, and he can't show.
Yeah.
He's like, I am physically unable to show you the narrative part of this, so I have to have the character say, oh, I recognize you saying something differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, all right, let's not dogpile on this thing, even though we could.
And just to say, just because myself and Grey didn't fully enjoy this book, a lot of people did. Because these were very recommended books on several forums that I've read that people really enjoyed. So this just might be because they're not myself and Grey's, cup of tea.
I kept seeing people go, does it get better? And they're like, not really. Like, if you hate it, you're never going to love it. Like,
and that's part of what made it so difficult for me to find another, because after reading Dungeon Crawler Carl, I was just like, this is the way this was written. I want to find other books that are similar so I can enjoy it. And I went online and I went on forums, and there were several books that went one of two ways. One way was, yeah, this is a 10-book series. The first 2 books were great. Everything after that was garbage. If you've ever read The Wheel of Time, you know what I'm talking about, where you get into the middle and it's just like, this is a chore I have to get through so I can get to the last books when it gets good again. And then there were several books that were like, yeah, it's mediocre all the way through. And the first book established things that were really awesome, and then they just kept doing the same thing and nothing really came of it. And I don't want that either, but again, without reading a book, I can never know if I'm really going to enjoy it. So I have to take some of those reviews with a grain of salt, because I'm sure there's a ton of people out there that would go, Stephen Brust is not a good writer.
They will die. They will die in the fiery pits of hell.
They're wrong, but people have opinions.
People can have opinions.
And there's people, it's a truth that people that are disappointed are more likely to say something than people that enjoyed or felt good about something.
Advocacy takes a lot of effort.
Yes.
All right, so let's go. Okay, so what kind of innovations and new directions have we seen in the genre? So expanding the format, progression fantasy. So a cousin genre that emphasizes skill growth and system mastery without explicitly game UI elements. An example would be Cradle by Will White. So basically stripping out the like the UI slash, we see this, we're going to bring it up, but we see this a lot in anime.
Yeah.
Where like you're watching an isekai and then you transition to one that basically you feel like you're talking about an isekai, but it's technically not because those little pieces were removed. VR integration. Some authors experiment with augmented reality and VR tie-ins, companion apps that track player stats alongside the book. That's kind of cool. And interactive and multimedia lit RPGs. Some creators release audiobooks with adaptive soundscapes and quest log visuals. That's kind of cool.
Really?
Other experiments with choose your own adventure and TTRPG inspired mechanics. And so I'm going to have to go look up some of those when I get home. Indie and self-publishing dominance. Most lit RPG success comes from self-published authors or small presses, like Mountaindale. Amazon Kindle Unlimited has become a lit RPG hub, bingeable, serialized, and often rapid release. And of course, cross-media adaptations. So anime has seen Sword Art Online, Log Horizon, Overlord, RE0, The Rising of the Shield Hero. Games that have been inspired by lit RPGs like Epic Tavern, Sword Art Online, Alicization, The Chorus, and several VR MMO prototypes, which I pray one of them will get good enough.
Someday.
Just plug me in, dude. That's how I want to go out.
Just upload my brain.
TTRPG influence. Some systems like Isekai, the tabletop RPG, or Level Up Advanced 5th Edition borrow from lit RPG narrative design, especially in progression and system transparency.
This is going to be interesting to make like Isekai the game group 2. And that's the first game. And the whole thing is just like, what do you mean group 2? Why are we group 2? I was like, oh, well, not great things happen to group 1.
So writers now play with them. So what are some other things that happen? Well, writers are now playing with the meaning of numbers. Like what happens when the system itself is broken? Or what if leveling up costs something human? Both kinds of. So some examples are Defiance of the Fall, Cosmic Scale Progression Fantasy, He Who Fights with Monsters. This is one that I've mentioned a lot.
Yes.
Humor meets existential system critique. The Quest is Bullshit, which is one of the ones that I'm looking up, which is parody and meta commentary on grind culture. All right, so then we shift back to cultural impact. So reader-player overlap. Lit RPG bridges readers and gamers to audiences that often overlap but consume media differently. Communities form around stat discussions, fan spreadsheets, and power build for fictional characters. It is kind of interesting because if you're DCC, like there are people who are like constantly trying to figure out like, oh, because this player has this stat thing, do you think this? And I'm like, you guys, like, he's a writer, okay? Like,
well, it's the other thing too. It's just like if you look at the way Dungeon Crawler Carl World works, anything is possible with the stats and the builds that he just comes up with in his head.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. They're trying to quantify or, put something into a particular scope doesn't matter. Like he hasn't thought that far into it. He's just done things enough to be like, this is interesting.
But he does do a lot of interaction with fans on like creating things. And
I'm sure.
So that part's really interesting that he kind of tries to make the appearance of continuity in the gaming system. The system as a lens for humanity. In the best lit RPGs, the mechanics aren't just for spectacle. They reflect psychology, morality, and meaning. It's about measuring growth, dealing with limits, and confronting morality in a quantified world. So what about future trends in the genre? Well, possibly integration with AI-driven storytelling, procedural story events that level up as you read, augmented reality lit RPGs with companion apps, crossovers with TTRPG actual plays and podcasts, blending narrative audio with system storytelling, and cinematic adaptations. Netflix and Crunchyroll have both explored options for major lit RPG properties.
Interesting.
So yeah, kind of interesting. Whether you're farming XP or rolling dice, remember, every story is just one level away from a new adventure. That's kind of weird.
Did you come up with that on your own?
Absolutely not. No, I just thought this was really interesting. This was one of those things, like I said, that we kind of maybe got in late.
Yeah.
Literally, I was stuck in a different city at a Barnes & Noble, and I was like, hey, this book I want is out. And I was like, oh, I always see that garish cover of Dungeon Crawler Carl. I just feel like some writer's making fun of D&D, and I was like, let me go get that book anyway.
I remember when you first told me about it, and you were very reticent about what it was about and things like that, where you're just like, I'm not sure I'm gonna like this. Like, I mean, I'm reading it and it's a little weird. And then like a couple days later, you're like, so I bought the second one. I'm not sure if this is really like a series I want to get into though. And then a couple days later, yeah, I bought the fourth one. What do you mean you bought the fourth? Well, I read the third one already, and I got the fourth one.
Burning through this as quickly as I can. Well, I think specifically, once again, when you're talking about a genre versus a example, and Dungeon Crawler Carl might be the Disney of, like, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are like probably screaming right now going, it's not all about that, but like, it is the one that is built as a slope.
Yeah.
That is so like precarious that once you start falling, you're like, oh, I'm just accelerating. And accelerating and accelerating and accelerating. And oh my God, how fast am I tumbling towards this now?
Mm-hmm.
And that was what I really didn't anticipate from it.
Yeah.
Was just like, it's because it's the other thing, which I guess I didn't realize until this point, is it's one continuous story.
Yes.
So how many times have you found something that doesn't contain big time breaks or resetting, or because it's just straight?
Yeah. And literally book 7 was the last one, right?
Yeah.
They've been in the dungeon for like a few months. And it's like you've been with him for these few months.
Yeah, this is straight. Yeah, it's
it's like the closest thing you get to a time skip is like, 2 days went by.
Yeah, or like the stuff they're not telling us.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of times when he comes back and he's like, "Wait, how long were we out?" Or
true,
stuff like that. But yeah, not to mention, who knows? Time is weird. Yeah. So as we were having the discussion previously, and because we're, full of ourselves, what would we like to see from a lit RPG book?
Cool.
I got some things I would like. I got some bullet points. Let me put the first one out here, okay?
Sure.
Sword Art Online had a few moments, and like I think I basically said this before, but like I'll contextualize. Like I think it was first exposed to me in Sword Art Online, where a person who accepts the game for reality asks a question and finds something no one else did. Like Ready Player One is built upon like the hook of Ready Player One is the guy figures out that's what I hate about the movie where they turn it into a race.
Yeah.
Because like he figured out even the location of the first egg.
Right.
Like, because it was like no one has figured that out. I think that the concept of something that everybody has been using and been going in, and that like there's this
one person finds the thing.
Well, a group of people are looking for the things that are in the system that are just so hard to find, or so like instead of like the grind. Like we know you can. We know that for an average person, you probably have to spend some time talking about the mechanics of the thing so they know the framework of the story. But then to every gamer out there, they're not going to care about that. They're going to care about the oddity parts. And I'm saying like from a gamer, from people who have played, what do we say, years of WoW at this point, like playtime?
Nearly a decade.
The story, like the thing he put in there of like, you finding the purple drop.
Yeah.
You reading the flavor text on an item and realizing, I think I know who this is talking about. That is the crack, what I think. Because you're like, go back, and like, that's one of the things I think you put in the recipe of like the best book is like, that has to be a huge portion of it. Is like, especially like, I think Ready Player One did the good thing of like being the first to find something and then realizing that you're just the first in a sprint and there are people who have been looking like you have.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, oh, what does that mean? So I think that's one thing that I would like to see.
I don't know if this necessarily has anything to do with LitRPG, but it's something that is crack for me in a book, and I think it would fit really well in one of these books. And it's when, so you have this established world where things are going on, whatever the case may be, and it's and Dungeon Crawler Carl does this a few times, and I like it a lot, but I would almost like it to be expounded upon to where it is the focus of the book, and it's the it's the people working in the background to keep everything going.
Yeah.
And I just like the idea of a world where people log in and play a game and do quests, and like you do it like Ready Player One, it's a VR environment and stuff like that. And someone, they're walking through like a forest or a jungle, and they see a light off to the side, and they're like, "What's that light?" And they walk over there, and it's a literal door that's like cracked open, and they open it, and you find out that the developer figured that it's cheaper to actually throw people into the game to work on the game as physical laborers than it is to have coders. And like, they're the ones who's like, no, literally, when you guys go and chop down trees for wood, we have to make new trees and go plant them.
Did you ever see that a couple of seasons ago? There was that anime of the beta testers and the VR.
You told me about it. I didn't really watch.
They play with that idea.
Do they?
Yeah, it's pretty funny because they all basically. I think it's one of those things where it's kind of failed execution.
Yeah.
Because like the main character is like a dude who like really cares about this,
Mm-hmm.
but there are a couple funny parts because essentially they all have the ability to like turn on like admin control, and like once they have admin control, they're like invincible. They can fly. They can do all this stuff. Not fly, but they can do all this crazy stuff. And like one of them guy like kind of gets into a fight with him, and that's not what this is about. But like he's trying to protect an NPC, and the guy's like, I want to kill that NPC. And so he ends up using a glitch that he reported where he can basically pin him into a wall and force him out of bounds. And that guy spends the rest of the MMO twirling through out of bounds mode in like a blank escape. And he's like, I just committed that guy to a fate worse than death. And I was like, you have sold me on this idea. And
then nothing like that happened.
Yeah, like the next episode, it went back to like... So
it's like, I mean, kind of off topic, but the Demon Lord, what was it called? Like the Outcasts of Demon Academy or something. And it's like the Demon Lord comes
he just keeps killing him.
And he keeps killing that guy and then resurrecting him. And the dude's just like, what just happened? He's like, well, I killed you and I resurrected you. It's like, well, you can't. And he kills him again. And then he brings it back. He's like, did you just do it again? He's like, yeah, I've always had this question. When you kill someone and you bring them back, is it the same person? The dude's like, oh shit. He kills him again and then brings him back.
How much is left of your original person?
Right. And I was like, that's so awesome. And then the anime drops that tone and there's nothing as cool as that for the rest of it.
I think Drake would... he was a fan of that, and there's some stuff, but you're right. Like, I think these are all the fun things. These are all the things that a gamer gets that if a gamer is also a writer that they could play with.
Yeah.
These kind of interesting concepts. Like, technically the movie, was it Guy?
Free Guy?
Free Guy?
Yeah.
That should be LitRPG, like someone who realizes they're an NPC in an MMO.
There is a series that's about that.
That's that's another thing to explore. That's a fantastic, like, kind of concept of just like, oh, but I can't die.
Yeah.
I can group up with everybody, and for some reason I look like I'm a normal player to them, but if I die, I die.
Yeah.
And like, oh, now you're establishing stakes. So I think that there's a ripe world of very interesting stuff here that could be explored. Like I said, I think we've watched so many shows and kind of where we're like, oh, this is not what I wanted it to be. And I think if you figure all that stuff, not to mention just adding in the layer of like you telling a story about people who are playing a game so that you can use the concept of what they do in the game and out of the game. Because like Sword Art Online, the second season where they did the whole like the guys going around shooting people in the game, like that was kind of a cool idea. Like there are things that are out there. There's plenty of low hanging fruit that could be plucked and ground into a juicy book.
Mm-hmm.
And if that book exists, please recommend it to me.
Yeah, no, seriously, recommendations appreciated.
Yeah. All right. Any other topic part of this that you want to explore?
No, I think I'm pretty. I'm gonna keep reading the Ripple system.
Shadeslinger, yeah. I want to get that point where you're just like, no, it completely changes. It's amazing. But I'm like, I know based on everybody's reviews that they're like, it doesn't. There's some point where he was just like, oh yeah, when he starts buying out the economy of like whatever the guy said, and he was just like, this is why the third book's so bad. And I was like, that sentence makes me not want to read anymore.
I'm gonna keep reading it just because I need something to read right now.
Go for it.
Yes, please recommend a series to us. I'd appreciate it.
All right, guys, we'll cut it off here. And, hopefully it's December. We're heading close to the holidays, and you're just hoping that you find your own magical gaming time.
Yeah.